Hello. I wanted to make a quick video on Arcane Mages in TBC Phase 1. Most people think that they are not viable because they need 2-piece Tier 5 bonus for extra Arcane Blast damage or require innervates from Druids to perform. I don't think this is the case in Classic TBC due to fast boss kill times. Here you can see my current gear that is mostly questing and normal blues. I am able to sustain Arcane Blast for 35 to 45 seconds in dungeons depending on other class buffs, while doing around 1.1k DPS without evocation. With an evocation in the rotation, this allows me to spam for over a minute doing roughly 900 plus DPS due to the less arcane power uptime. The gear stat priority I am looking for is Spirit, Intellect, and Crit in that order. When you have decent gear, you should have roughly 900 Intellect and 500 Spirit fully rate buff. All other stats really don't matter. The only major pieces that are specifically required are the trinkets, which I don't have one of them currently. The first being Bangle of the Endless Blessing. This trinket gives 15% of mana regen in combat on proc, giving us 75% mana while casting, which is insane. Additionally, the 2-minute on use gives us 100 MP5 for its duration. The second trinket is the Alchemy trinket that gives Intellect, Spirit, and 40% more mana from mana potions. This trinket again gives us roughly 100 MP5. Here is a screenshot of RAR's DPS Simulator for best in slot gear in Phase 4, resulting in 1.7k DPS over a 3-minute fight. Since there are very few non-healer cloth pieces that have Spirit on them, try to get these pieces like the Attunement Bracers and Morose Belt. But normal non-Spirit gear with crit is fine, as long as you socket Spirit and have double MP5 trinkets. Now if you're killing bosses in under 90 seconds, using these mana trinkets are not required, and you should swap into an unused spell damage trinket for way higher burst. Here are some clips of me spamming Arcane Blast. This first clip is of me spamming without using any cooldowns and having no beneficial party buffs. The rest of the clips are using cooldowns with various buffs, but in unideal party setups. If you are unimpressed, that is fine, but just know that this is the weakest you will see in Arcane Mage. In these videos, my gear was worse than my current gear. I had no enchants, no food buff, usually no flask, low party DPS for longer fights, green quality gem socketed, and still was semi-pumping on DPS. The good thing about Arcane Mages is that pretty much everything is a DPS buff, as in mana regen is a DPS buff, main stat buffs are a DPS buff, and normal spell damage, spell crit, spell hit buffs are a DPS buff. So Arcane Mages can excel both in dungeons because the fights last less than 40 seconds, and raids because you get all these juicy buffs. To list some large notable DPS buffs: Priest from Spirit, DPS buff. Kings from Pally, DPS buff. Wisdom from Pally, DPS buffs. Mark from Druid, DPS buff. Shadow Priest mana regen, DPS buff. And of course, the Shaman, hit crit totems with spell damage, huge DPS buff. Additionally, when you are not spamming Arcane Blast, the massive MP5 the build has allows you to spam Improved Blizzard for a 90% slow for heroic dungeons on big pulls, which seems to be pretty much required with tanks being so low geared, with this 40-0-21 spec, while normal Frost Mages will go in very fast. Using this build and my big brain, I was able to get one of the first server kills on Peggle for heroic Shattered Halls, and we wiped 0 times. If you ever find yourself in a situation where the fight is lasting a very long time due to multiple raid members dying, fear not, because your MP5 is greater than the cost of spamming Frostbolts, so you will never need to get out your wand, unlike Frost and Fire Mages. Frostbolt is the backup spell and does fairly good damage for very long fights. Currently, spamming Arcane Blast with no cooldowns for me is doing around 800 DPS, while spamming Frostbolt with no cooldowns is doing around 500 DPS. Yes, this is a large drop in DPS, but it's better than wanding for 100 DPS. When it comes to DPS rotation, I believe getting to 3 Arcane Blast charges then popping all cooldowns is the best opener. Also, use your mana gem and mana potion as soon as you're missing 4k mana to put them on cooldown so that they can be used again in fights that last between 2 to 3 minutes. A little trick you can do with Icy Veins is to evocate during the last half a second of Icy Veins because it snapshots your haste and makes the full duration of evocation 20% faster. This is a small DPS boost, but can be worth it if used right. I will likely make a follow-up video to this video when I get some raid gear to showcase the build in a raid setting, so subscribe for that notification. Thanks.